A craftsman battles for perfection, never willing to give in or walk away. I'm Eric Gorgeous. I built custom motorcycles from the ground up, using the tools I was born with and skills passed on by countless generations before me. I wasn't always a motorcycle builder. I worked 9 to 5, chasing money and titles, and it nearly broke me. So I threw it all away and started over. I decided to work with my hands to feed my soul, and I've never looked back. I believe there's a craftsman in all of us. Join me on a quest to uncover the skills that built our society, one craftsman at a time. We'll discover what drives the men and women who I call my heroes. We'll learn their craft and maybe even find some inspiration along the way. There's a part of you in everything you do, your legacy, a craftsman's legacy. The guitar is as American as apple pie. When most people think of a guitar, they think of the icons that played it. Legends like Hendrix, B.B. King, Clapton, though the craftsman behind the guitar is often missed. A craftsman responsible for building a guitar is referred to as a luthier. Stringed instruments go back thousands of years, but the guitar you know today was invented in the early 19th century. Historically, musical instruments were a lifetime investment, often handed down within family from generation to generation. As the popularity for the guitar grew, the demand for the luthier increased. The introduction of the assembly line in the 20th century brought mass production to the world of guitar making. This made the guitar available to anyone interested in playing, and over time, made it a household item. Today, the definition and role of the luthier still holds true to its roots. Many guitar players will find themselves at the doorstep of a luthier like Brian Gallup to help them discover their tone with a handcrafted instrument. I've played drums since I was a boy, but today I'm going to visit a luthier to see what it takes to build a guitar and maybe even get a lesson. Thank you so much for having us out here. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.
Tell me about your shop, man. This place is awesome.
Well, I'm glad you like it. The shop itself, it started out pretty small, and over the years it's built up into where we do instrument repairs, make custom guitars that are ground up builds for people, and also we have the Gallup School of Luthery that started out with 1 student at a time, and now it's at 25 students. And generally about a third of them are overseas, 20–30%.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I say.
That's pretty amazing, dude.
Yeah, I wake up every day and go, wow, it started with 1 student and now look at that.
No, I think that's fantastic. You know, because it's always about, I think anyways, when you're a craftsman, it's always about teaching other people and keeping that craft alive and keeping it going, you know, that momentum, and everything comes full circle. How'd you find your way into guitars?
Well, I got into playing like anybody else for probably one of the most honest reasons was to meet girls, I guess, you know. But after a while, you know, of playing, and I had really bad instruments, and I was trying to figure out why would this thing not play and why wouldn't it tune? So immediately I started tearing them apart, and that was about 75, I guess. And promptly I threw my mom's washer and dryer out of the laundry room and turned that into a guitar shop, and then slowly I just started fixing everything in sight. And lo and behold, people started bringing me stuff. I thought that was amazing. Really, you're gonna trust me with this? Well, I was like 16, you know. But one thing led to another, and I just kind of always did this thing.
So what got you into actually building it? I mean, how did you learn to build a guitar from scratch, from nothing?
Well, by repairing instruments. When you get into full restorations, you're making a lot of components, and you have to duplicate them perfectly when you're dealing with vintage instruments. So you know what the sides are, what the thicknesses of the backs are, you know where the tops are tuned, where the backs are tuned, and replicating vintage style instruments is way harder than making your own, because it's your own thing. You just kind of make it up, right? No,
sure.
Who's to say? So, but once I really had that under my belt and became what I felt to be proficient at this, then I decided I wanted to make my own line of instruments that had my own ideas. Not so much my own identity, but my ideas about tone and what I was looking for as a player, or what other players were saying that they were looking for. Then I slowly started introducing that one at a time. Starting out with flat top steel strings, moving into electrics, then basses, then arch top instruments. And it's a process. All of those things, all those instruments have a particular purpose, a different style of music that they play.
Did you have any formal apprenticeship?
In the beginning, no. I was pretty awful. It was like right close to bloodletting, for sure. But I wasn't working on anything of any value. Then, slowly, I started working on instruments that were worth more. Well, at least in the first place, back then, they weren't worth anything. And the big vintage thing hit in 1980, and instruments that were $200–300 went to $2,000–3,000, then $20,000.
Oh my gosh.
And at that point, I was more fearless with them. I mean, I had my chops down.
Right.
But I met this guy, and his name was Dan Erlewine, which at this point is one of the most famous repairmen in the world.
Really?
And he's down to Athens. And he kind of took me in for about 2 years. And it was a great experience. He taught me so many things. I mean, I feel like I always kind of had the chops and the hands. And I really respected, this is something I wanted to do bad. But he taught me about what vintage instruments really were, respect for it, why you want to look out for this, and really gave me a great foundation down that road that took me to another level.
So man, do you think a lot about your legacy?
I didn't in the past, but now that the school has been going as long as it has, and I feel like I finally, after all these years, have certain contributions that I brought to the craft itself. I've started to think about it more. It feels a little weird, but the one thing that I know, and I even see it piling up right now, are all the students that are out there are doing better and better work in the area of guitars, because it kind of fell off for a while. And I think that this shop and what we're doing here really had something, did something to make sure that they're doing much better work for everybody that they're working for.
I mean, it's amazing for you to be able to say that, to say that you impacted the environment so much, and that whole scene with guitar makers and luthiers, and be able to impact it that greatly. I think that's pretty cool, especially for you to be able to witness that.
Yeah, the compliment is when employers call you and say, these people are ready. They're going to do something. Or you watch them break away on their own. I mean, because really the trick is it's cool that you do your thing, but it's that they do it better.
Brian started a school of luthiery, not only to continue the education and to build up more luthiers, but also to keep his business going. To me, that's really smart. He's helping people out. He's bringing on a bunch of people, and it's an awesome school he's got set up. You can go there, you live on site, you learn all you can in a set period of time, and then you're ready to move on.
Man, this is something. What's going on here, man?
This is the main classroom area. Primarily the first term and second term students are here. When we were shooting before, we're up in the actual master's class student area.
Okay.
And as you see, each student has their own bench. Like if this student has a bench that's this size, this is to teach the student to do his work, clean up for a procedure, then do work clean up after that procedure to kind of get the good working habits going.
Nice.
And the different students are at different levels. Right now, the students practicing fret dressing. These students, because they're practicing fretting, are probably spraying top coats on their electric guitars, which means that they would have bursted yesterday. Like these are just the junk bodies that don't make it off of the CNC, so we make these mock-up instruments so they can fret these things over and over and over.
So you get a chance to really learn how to do that properly.
Right, what this is also a repair school along with building.
Okay.
And fret jobs and bone nuts and saddles are like changing tires on a car. They're like brake shoes.
Oh, really?
You're going to do them over and over.
Do they have to know something about guitars when they get here? I mean, can somebody that knows absolutely nothing about guitars, could I come here, take your class and learn?
Yeah, that's what the class is designed for. There's a lot of people who are like the baby boomers right now. That's a big demographic that's banging around out there. And they already have their careers, they're done. They're a doctor, they were a lawyer, they were whatever. And they show up and their question is, am I going to hurt myself or make a fool out of myself? No, the school's set up to be layering of skill levels. So like if you walk through the door, we're going to start you, even if you have worked on guitars, we don't care. You're going to start with the most basic items. And if we do our job correctly, at the end of the class, let's say third term, they're moving down through those procedures. They got the notebook out. They aren't asking us the questions. You know, they're just moving. They know what to do next, even though they can't go rogue. You know, because this is a trade school, and they're not going to be walking up and firing up a bandsaw without an instructor. But if they're sitting there quietly and they're calm and they really have this under control, then we've done our job. And so we started up an apprenticeship program again, where we always have too. And they come in and they just get beat up, you know, day and night. They open the shop. They have to come in and process wood. But you know, the thing of it is that they end up knowing where all our suppliers are. They end up knowing, you know, really what's in every drawer.
Sure.
I mean, could you imagine that experience? I mean,
no, I can't imagine it, you know. And that speaks to your legacy behind Lutheran. So this got me pretty riled up to get my hands dirty, man.
Okay.
So let's go build something.
Okay.
All right.
I know very little about guitars, but I can tell that building one is going to take much longer than a couple of days. So I've asked Brian to show me some of his favorite steps.
So we're going to bend up some sides.
We are. I'm going to introduce water to the wood on both sides. And then when I put it on this bender, which is about 325 degrees.
This is the bender?
This is the bender, and you can see it's hot. You take the water, you put the water on the wood. When it hits the heating element, the water that's in the wood turns to steam, explodes, loosens the fibers. The fibers move then, and then it slowly bends the piece of wood, and you sit there and you're going to hold it until it takes a set. It'll spring back, but little by little, we're actually going to take this thing and fit it into this mold behind us so that it'll actually make a dead hit. The reason why we want a dead hit is we don't want the sides to put any stress on the top and back. So what I'm going to do, and I'll show this to you, then you can give her a shot.
Yeah, I want to try this.
I'm going to put some water on the outside, water on the inside, and water on the outside.
You're pretty liberal with the water.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to steam away.
Important to keep moving it and keep it wet.
Yeah, if you stick it in one spot too long, you will scorch it. And I can feel it move. I can feel it starting to take a set.
You can?
Oh yeah. It just starts to relax. And I'm going to sit here and hold it for a second. Now I take it back and see how it actually bent a little bit.
Yeah, it did.
Here, give it a try.
All right.
So you just want to put some water on it. Don't worry about getting wet.
Spray the water on it. Both sides, right?
Yeah. Get it right on it. And put a little pressure on it. There you go. You got it now. See, you're scooting it along. That's a great way to do it. You start the bend and you bring it around.
Sort of keep moving it like that.
Yeah.
A bit of a learning curve too, not only with applying the heat, but how much water to use, when to apply the water, and
absolutely. You know, you take it until you break it, and you go, well, that was too much.
that was too far.
Won't do that again. You can see it feels pretty good though. This, if you put that
I can
across
see that moving quick.
And right now I'm starting to get a little bold with it.
Yeah.
You know, obviously I was worried up front. Look at that. See?
I think that's awesome. Let's see how it fits.
Look at that. That's starting to come in.
Yep.
Now I start working right here, and I may bring that bend back a little further,
Yep.
fit it into the mold.
Some of the fixtures Brian made for himself were so good that they just now have become sort of industry standards. So the table that he uses to set the necks and to, I think, install the frets is used by a bunch of luthiers now. I mean, what more of a legacy can you ask for?
I think one of the coolest parts about my job, going around and talking to different craftsmen and stuff like that, is seeing all the different fixtures and jigs that everybody makes to do their job. What does this one do?
Well, this jig is a really simple, one of those things that you make like in a half hour that you use the rest of your life. Of course, it has my name on it, so my guys don't grab it because
Sure.
they covet this thing, you know. But it's a jig that just has a 2x4 that I cut. When I lay the neck in it, it accepts the peg head angle at 15 degrees.
Okay.
I just slide it up until it bumps. Bring this over, lock it down. And because it's a 2x4 on the bottom, it exposes the side of the neck for carving. And now I can grab it in many different spots and spin it around to carve this neck.
That's smart. And now what are we going to do with this?
We're going to actually give this a carve.
Show me how it's done, man.
Okay.
I'm going to switch spots with you.
I'm going to grab it first like this. And this is just a gun maker's vise. You could use just about anything.
I was eyeing that earlier. That's
Yep,
a
and this
really
thing here
cool
will
vise.
go in any direction that I want. Let's see, right about there looks good. Right now I'm going to take the mass off of this neck to establish the radius. So really what this object's going to become is a cone, not a cylinder, right?
Right.
So I want to make sure that I don't mess with it as I go. And you too, because you're going to be carving on it.
And so you're just adjusting the
Depth of the cut.
depth of the cut.
Yeah, there it goes.
Now you're getting it. And you're constantly rolling over to start creating that radius.
Yeah. Come on, give it a try.
All right. Again, you're making it look way too easy.
Oh, it is. Doing good. Now, when I get up into this area, I'm going to want to get ready to start establishing that volute. I can't do it with this, so I spin it around, like so.
So you're going to use a chisel for that?
Yep, come in with the chisel.
Look at that. That is a sharp chisel.
Start blocking that out. This is looking good. At this moment here, I'm going to pop it out. Now the neck is starting to come in the picture here. I'm going to just use the vise itself. Come in, take this.
That looks a little harder because it's
That's
a bit of an angle, you know?
It's a flexible tool, and I'm using the dish side of it, you know. And this is where I could lose a big hunk.
You got to be pretty careful right there so you don't gouge it, right?
Yeah.
Using the chisel to really take off a lot of mass and flatten it out there.
Yeah, just
So that's a mounting point, so you want to keep that nice and square and clean? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like everything else you're doing, man, you're making this look really easy. How long did it take you to, sort of perfect this carving technique?
well, I grew up around my father, who was a woodworker and making gun stocks or whatever he was making. So when I started to do this, I already kind of had a sense
Okay.
of what was going on. But carving the necks is the part that scares most people.
Yeah.
That's why so many people buy them already produced.
Yeah, it's hard keeping it symmetrical, I would think. Making it look good. This is awesome. I can't believe how quickly it really came into shape.
It's a lot of fun.
Where do we go next with this?
Well, at this point here, I'm gonna finalize the neck. I'm gonna put on the underlay, drill the tuner holes, and get it ready to go onto the body, and wait for the body to catch up to it.
So what do we got here? This is a pretty cool setup. This does not look like a flat surface.
It's not. We call it a flat top guitar or a flat back guitar, but it's really not. Unlike an arch top guitar that had the carve,
Where you can obviously see it.
Yeah, like a violin. But it's not flat. If it was flat, it actually, especially on the top, because it's under so much stress, it has what's called torque load. The strings pull on it and I just want to rip the guitar apart. So we put a dome on that helps support that. On the back, we do the same thing. Now, I have to get braces on it, not only for support, but to be able to shave them and tune the back to its final resonance.
So the placement of them is critical.
Critical. Yeah, it is. You have to have two here to be able to tune these regions. I could do it in an X bracing pattern. And on the top, there's I know at least a half a dozen popular patterns that give us different types of tones and control. So it's really super simple. I'm going to have you do it, but I've took the braces and numbered them.
That makes a lot of sense.
1, 2, 3, and this one actually was numbered upside down.
All right, show me how it's done, man.
This is it. Take the glue again. Just check it to make sure you have the radius. Nice bead down the center. Just about like that. Just kind of look where it's going to go. I like to put one right in the center.
Okay.
Like this. Just reach right over and grab them. It goes quick, doesn't it?
It does. And it's so cool looking.
Yeah. Now on the X bracing pattern, what we do is we come in and we hit the X bracing pattern first on the top, then come back and catch all the braces around to line up with it. And the braces on here, people will say, oh, they have to be crucial with where they're placed as far as lining up or being square or something, but it's really not true. The braces are there, of course, for structure. I mean, that's like a big, hairy deal. We want to make sure that it's going to hold up, especially on the top. But once they're on there, we can tune anything. So you can tune a top with really any bracing pattern. This is called ladder bracing because it's lined up like a ladder, very typical for a back. But on the top, you have X bracing, popularized by the Martin Guitar Company in the 30s. Great company. Classicals would have fan bracing. So in other words, it would have a couple of ladders,
Sort of like
and then it would have a fan bracing off the back.
Okay.
And other ones have gridded patterns that are actually latticed together. All of those still can be tuned to the final note, but they just give you some different control over how the top might flex and feel to the player's fingers.
I really enjoyed my time with Brian. Seeing how the sides are formed and the neck is carved was a thing of beauty. Although we weren't able to complete a full build, I did get my hands dirty and discover a small understanding of what goes into guitar making. So do you look at yourself or refer to yourself more as a craftsman or as an artist?
Craftsman.
Yeah? How come?
Well, the art of luthiery gets tossed around a ton. And believe me, there are some amazing artists out there. Pearl inlay, carving, marquetry that is through the roof. But with me, it's pretty much down to making a really great concert level guitar with decent, respectable lines. So I would view what I do as more of a craft.
This is beautiful.
Thanks.
I mean, absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
I see you got it signed inside here, handcrafted. Amazing. How much time does it normally take for you to get to this point?
Well, that's the question that's always asked. And sometimes I say 40 hours or 50 hours, and people say, well, that doesn't seem like a long time, or it is. And that's probably a huge, hugely underestimated. But I don't look at it like that. When you or somebody comes in to order an instrument, if I have issues or if the wood's giving me a problem, I'm going to slow down. But the actual touch time, that's what I mean by 40 or 60 hours. And it also depends on how many different personal touches the customer needs. Is it an inlay or whatever that may be?
Sure. And you know what? That doesn't sound like a lot of time to me to get something that's handcrafted to near perfection, I mean, this is just a beautiful, beautiful piece. So now you have to show me how to at least play one chord.
One chord?
Just one.
Let's do it.
All right, so let me see here. I'm gonna put my finger here and here.
Drop that one back.
A little farther back.
Perfect.
Right?
Yep.
And then. That is awesome. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. I truly enjoyed this, man. It was cool.
Well, thank you. It was my pleasure.
A lot of people really don't get to see what impact their legacy makes on the world. Brian has an advantage because he gets to see what his legacy does to others every day. And his legacy has long arms. Not only is he impacting the musicians who he makes guitars for, but he's also providing the world with awesome luthiers. And his advancements in technology to help find tonal properties in wood and different fixtures that luthiers are using, I mean, this speaks to him every single day. Very few people can say that they get to witness that, and that's Brian Gallup's legacy.